Hello everyone, this is Internally Screening. This is our first ever director's tier list, and what other way to start it than with everyone's favourite gothic sad boy, Tim Burton, the man of the hour throughout the 90s and the 2000s, really. He kind of never lost his relevance until he did, and he lost it in a big way. He lost it in a big way. And me and Adam have seen every single one of his films, for better or for worse. And we're here to do the only thing worth doing, and that's deciding where they would go next to an arbitrary number. What's your feelings on Tim Burton? I mean, we're about to start off with, Pee-wee's Adventure. One of the most iconic films of all time, Adam. So what's the lowdown on Tim Burton?
Yeah, Tim Burton was, for a certain generation, I think, maybe a slightly older generation than us, but definitely for us as kids as well, a truly iconic director, kind of almost invented the modern goth aesthetic. Every goth in the land owes at least something to what Tim Burton put forward in his heyday. Unfortunately, as you say, his heyday is quite a long way behind him. Even when he was super successful still in the noughties, a lot of what he was putting out was still questionable. So we're here to arrange it all out in a lovely little chart, essentially.
Precisely, and as I said, what better way to start it than with a film that I feel like most people don't even know is directed by Tim Burton, but it is, and that's Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I meant to do that.
How do we feel about Pee-wee's Big Adventure? I was kind of shocked how much I enjoyed this film, and I watched it and it was the first thing I'd ever seen. I know he's kind of like a staple for some American childhoods, but I knew nothing about Pee-wee Herman, and I thought I was going to hate it, and I actually thought it was quite cute.
Yeah, I mean, I only knew of Pee-wee Herman as just this kind of caricaturish Mr. Bean-esque character that I didn't want anything to do with, because all the snippets I'd seen were so kind of cringy and silly, and in a way that that didn't really appeal to me. But yeah, Pee-wee's Big Adventure is a charming little film. I mean, it's certainly not Tim Burton's best, but as like a first foray and really showcasing his kind of wacky sense of humor and style, it's like really visceral and colorful and charming. There's so much to like about the film, and it's very clear why producers and bigwigs in the movie industry saw that and went, yeah, that's a guy we need more of.
I mean, what was most impressive to me about it is some of Tim Burton's earliest films have so much energy, and they're so snappily edited, and you have all this visual humor, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure is kind of like a crash course in all of those things. It's really, really well directed. There are some absolutely hilarious moments in it. Particularly the last bit where they're going through a movie set is a real kind of all-timer moment. That's hilarious. You can tell he put in so much work to make it as good as it possibly could, which I guess it's a franchise film, right? And he goes on to have a pretty bad record with anything franchise related. You look at the difference between this and some of his later sort of Disney based films, and it's like night and day. So I would personally feel like a solid B tier for Pee-wee's Adventure.
I was thinking exactly that. Good B tier, plenty of room to build from there, but he's still finding his feet a little bit.
Yeah, sure. It's not maybe as thematically deep or as visually stunning, but it makes up for it with charm and just a sense of fun, which kids' films should have, right?
Yeah.
And there's no reason that anyone should put that much effort into a Pee-wee Herman film, but he did, and it's
really
great.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So fair play to him. A pretty strong start, I would say.
I say we open it.
Maybe we should knock first.
I feel like most people assume this film is Tim Burton's film. I think this was one of the first films that I actually ever saw of his, because it is a real emo mall goth classic. Beetlejuice, starring Michael Keaton. So I guess this is sort of where Tim Burton began to move to clearly what he always wanted to do, which is a more sort of horror aesthetic, gothic, but still very funny and snappy and entertaining.
And kind of cartoonish as well. Like
very cartoonish.
There are horror elements to it, but like it's very silly and campy.
Goofy, yeah. It feels much more Tim Burton in that it feels like it exists in a world where you could probably have loads of like lore. I mean, there probably fucking is somewhere on the internet. The visual direction in it is so strong. It has like that kind of, when they're on the outside, it's like a sort of American Gothic type painting. And then when they go into this like other zone when they die, it is like you kind of stepped into a whole new world. Like I love the bit in the waiting room where there's the guy who died because he was like smoking a cigarette and fell asleep. And he's like a burnt out corpse, and he's like, "Hey, do you want one?" And Alec Baldwin's like, "No, I'm good, thanks." And he's like, "I'm trying to quit myself."
You want a cigarette?
Oh, no, thank you.
I'm trying to cut down myself.
Like that's like the classic sense of humor that you really get from like a lot of his early stuff. Like the satirical nature of it's really, really strong as well.
Some great performances in that as well, like the sort of colourful characters. I think something that's very distinctive about Tim Burton beyond his visual aesthetic is the way he marries like the kind of ordinary and mundane with the crazy Gothic stuff, and like nowhere is that more apparent than with our main characters who are so kind of befuddled and confused, and they're sort of plain standard Americans, and then this bizarre situation happens to them and they're kind of thrust into this new environment, and then you have a kind of Winona Ryder's character is the kind of meeting between the two worlds. Like she has that Gothic aesthetic to her, but she's not crazy. Like maybe you could even read into it that that's kind of Tim Burton like insert perhaps.
Oh, 100%, because she's the misunderstood artist, right? Whose parents don't understand her, and then she eventually becomes adopted by this misfit couple
who are still ghosts, right? They're still ghosts when that happens.
Oh, and of course I'd be remiss to mention, what's his name? Oingo Boingo.
Oh,
Danny Elfman on the soundtrack, killing it. I remember watching this like when I was younger. It has like that bit where they're looking into the doors of different dimensions, and there's the bit where they like just look out, and it's like Dune. There's like a bunch of space worms. It has like, it's that kind of sense of like imagination that like I would personally put this as like an A-tier Tim Burton film.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm gonna have to agree with you. Like, very little beats this in terms of sheer aesthetic, particularly for Tim Burton. Like, I think coming out so strong from Pee-wee Herman into this, really solidifying his name with just like one of the most iconic visual experiences in modern cinema. It's got to be celebrated. So yeah, A-tier.
And Michael Keaton, so iconic in that performance.
Yeah.
You bunch of losers! You're working with a professional here! Nice fucking model!
He's such an annoying bastard in it, though.
Yeah, he's great.
It's weird.
Very annoying.
It's weird he's like top billed and what a lot of people like think of fondly of the film, because in my mind is like he is so inherently antagonistic and like
he's a villain,
in every single way.
He's so greasy. I love it. He's like
so
a cross
greasy.
between like a mega church pastor and like a car salesman. He's fantastic. Okay, well, Batman. What are we saying about Batman, Adam? What are your thoughts on Batman?
Well, I think, again, for a lot of Tim Burton's early films, the visual aesthetic, once again, is just on a whole different level. And I think, an aesthetic that kind of informed a lot of what they would do with Batman inside and outside of, like, the theatrical movies. This, like, huge, grand, gothic, but still, cartoonish style for Batman. Michael Keaton was, a great casting choice. Jack Nicholson, great as well. I would only say that I do kind of find it a little boring as a film. Like, I agree. I don't celebrate it in the same way. Like, I think it's an immensely important moment, especially for Batman and for Tim Burton. But as a proper film, I think I far prefer its sequel and then other films in the franchise as well.
It's so aesthetically pleasing to me, with like all the kind of like Fritz Lang German expressionism, like huge industrial buildings, and like it's just like constantly nighttime, and like the costume design is amazing, and It's got some banging moments in it. It's certainly like, I think it's lacking in any kind of real character. I don't think Tim Burton takes any great interest in Batman as a character himself.
Yeah.
And what makes it entertaining is more the side characters and the visual aesthetic. Jack Nicholson as the Joker, I can kind of take or leave, but he is kind of fun while he's on. Even if I don't think he gives like an amazing performance.
I think maybe we've been spoilt in recent years by,
for sure.
you know, I mean, obviously by Heath Ledger, but, you know, even to a lesser extent by Joaquin Phoenix and just, I think the
Jared
cultural...
Leto.
Obviously, I mean, I left him to last for a good reason, you know, he's the pinnacle. But yeah, our society's understanding of the Joker as a character has kind of evolved so much since particularly Heath Ledger's performance.
Our society has we've understood that we live in one. That's how we've grown to understand the Joker.
God. I can't believe I wandered into that one. Blissfully ignorant of what I was saying. But yes, so I think Jack Nicholson as like a kind of earlier representation of the character was immensely influential, and yeah, again, like a great bit of casting. Like, what is Jack Nicholson known for being? Like, crazy and angry and just like a general kind of all-round lunatic, and he brings so much charm to it. Like you say, it's just like the motivations of a lot of it is kind of weak, but I do love the setup for Joker as like a kind of crime boss that gets, you know, betrayed and, you know, messed up by the Batman.
And the score. Let's not forget the score. The score absolutely.
Danny Elfman was in his peak at this point. You know, I guess only a few years earlier he'd made the fucking Simpsons theme tune as well. Come on, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've been using this Batman theme for decades. Like, he nailed it, and they never really needed to remake it, apart from obviously, you know, the Dark Knight trilogy needed a less campy aesthetic, but everything else, there's video games, TV series, loads of shit used this. So
I'm gonna put it in B tier, but below Pee Wee Herman.
What, you think it's not as good as Pee Wee Herman?
I don't think it's as good as Pee Wee Herman, personally. Give me your argument for it being better than Pee Wee Herman.
I mean,
Pee Wee Herman is like less memorable aesthetically, but the problem with the Batman film for me is there are whole points where it lags and it gets quite dull, whereas Pee Wee Herman, it feels like so quick on its feet. Like, there's not a point in Pee Wee Herman where he even lets you get bored. It has a really, really satisfying conclusion with that ridiculous set piece. It may not have stuck with me as much aesthetically. I just think Pee Wee Herman might be a stronger film overall. Give me a pitch for Batman being above it.
Perhaps. I guess a lot of it would go down to the context of Batman. You know, what he did to that character. He reinvented it and transformed it from what was before like a kitschy kind of cheesy character, you know, more sort of infamous.
I wouldn't argue the cultural impact of Batman over Pee Wee Herman.
Well, and that's the thing. Maybe I think as film wise, and I think you're probably right, to be honest. Like, you know, Pee Wee's Big Adventure is overall a more sort of tight and entertaining affair, and maybe that will probably annoy a few people, but you know, impact wise, context wise, I just think Batman was just such a standout moment. It's a shame that they couldn't do more with it beyond Batman Returns, because the foundations that Burton laid for the franchise was so groundbreaking, I guess. So yeah, my feeling is B tier, but personally above. But you're the man in control of the mouse. So
well, true, I am. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave Batman there because I am God. So we'll move on to Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands, probably, unless you count, I don't know why The Nightmare Before Christmas is here as a side note, because he didn't direct it, so we're ignoring that.
Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands, probably his most iconic film, arguably. If you ignore Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't know how much I rate it as a film. I think it's really, really good in its first half, though. And in terms of his cinematography, apart from maybe one other film later in this list, I don't know if he ever got as good as he was here.
Yeah.
In terms of how it looks.
This is not necessarily peak Burton in terms of his quality, but peak Burton in terms of like his absolute aesthetic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There is no moment. I think what's amazing about this film is any film that can kind of become a modern fairy tale like to add to that kind of canon is like there's just like an impressively specific kind of storytelling there that takes a massive amount of skill, and I mean a dash of luck as well, but like you could easily, to a kids in 100 years time, add this to like the grim fairy tales and things like that, and it'd be like it would fit in seamlessly.
It's so German. I mean, I mentioned German expressionism earlier.
I guess,
this is
I
like
thought that. Yeah,
it does feel literally like a grim adaptation.
Yeah,
that it's
it
kind
does.
of weird that it's not. I do like it a lot, but it is kind of like a. It's kind of like a painting that's kind of... I love to look at it, but I don't necessarily get an emotional response from it, if that makes sense.
I think it's important what you said about like the film being wonderful in its setup. I think, one, the design, the creation of Edward Scissorhands as a character is fantastic. It's inspired.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp does a wonderfully muted performance as him. You could really go way too overboard with it, which I think a modern Johnny Depp probably would do. Like, but you know, the calmness and the quietness and the kind of nervousness of the character is just so relatable, even in his ridiculous scenario. Like, it is just an extreme version of this kind of, you know, a misunderstood goth in the middle of America going, what the hell do I do? How do I relate to these people? And you know, the simple relationship dynamic of him trying, kind of being fed through the system and trying to work his way around it, and just like little bits and pieces of quite mundane things but told artfully. You know, he learns to cut hedges and shave dogs, and you know, people become enamored with him. The ending is just a little bit... It's
abrupt. It just kind of...
And perhaps a bit obvious. You know, like, they just outcast him. It's quite like binary as well. It's not very nuanced, whereas I feel like a lot of the opening is, you know.
Yeah, I think... Because the thing is, when I say I like the opening stretch, I like the whole film pretty much, except... I really like the whole film, except for maybe like the last 10 minutes. And it's not that I don't like the last 10 minutes, it's just that the last 10 minutes, it feels like there is like a serious beat missing there.
Right,
and
it kind of rushes to its conclusion.
Yeah. And as you said, it's like really obvious. And I mean, but I think you're right. Well, I think the main thing that's so fascinating about it is that it's so clearly like a meta preemptive biopic by Tim Burton about him and how he views himself, which like with like Johnny Depp barely having any lines in it. I think that's what elevates it to me, that and the fact that it's probably one of the best looking films ever. So I would put it probably still B, but maybe like below, maybe A.
I'm thinking a low A tier. It's not as like, it's, you know, the quality wise not as good as Beetlejuice, you know, in terms of its story, and but like it's pretty much on par in terms of visual creativity, and like I said, like adding to this kind of fairy tale canon essentially. I mean, it's not, but it's so easily could be.
There are stretches of it that are S tier, but anyways,
if we weren't so cynical, we would give it S tier. So
yeah. I could see, if I had like nostalgia for it, if this was a film I watched a lot as a kid, I can completely understand why people are head over heels for that film.
Meow.
Speaking of S tier, I'm just going to preemptively put Batman Returns right there, where it belongs. Where it fucking belongs. Arguably the second best Batman film ever made.
I might agree with you. It was an absolute discovery, like a revelation to me.
I was shocked at how good this film was.
Yeah.
Because we watched this in preparation, and I never hear people talk about this film.
No.
Like, ever. I never hear people talk about this film. And it is literally one of the funniest, kind of deep, and like, I mean, I said funniest already, but my god, it is so funny. It is one of the funniest films ever made. He just went all guns blazing.
He did.
With this film. He did not take any fucking prisoners.
Yeah, this is what it looks like when Tim Burton has all the money and all the power in the world, because, you know, to compel him to come back to Batman, he requested, you know, he have full creative control over the whole, you know, production. And not only can you tell, but he is so clearly reveling in all of those decisions. And perhaps that's why to a lot of people it's a bit of a turn off because it's just so bright and overt. Well, not bright, but like creatively bright, I guess. It's just so packed with ideas. It's so frantic and energetic that maybe it just put a lot of people off, where it's like, oh, he's gone too far in these places. But it has some of the greatest villains and side characters in any Batman film. Like,
oh yeah,
packing in 3 villains into a film is usually a disaster, but they're wonderfully balanced. Like, Michelle Pfeiffer's backstory is bonkers, and her performance is surprisingly sympathetic. Like, I mean, her situation is sympathetic, but the way it all pans out is so pantomime. It's amazing they made her character feel like a real human being kind of going through trauma.
This is maybe the campest film.
It's also
and it's so much better for it.
He also gets kind of kinky with it as well. Like, there's no way fuck that like latex suit wasn't just like straight out of, like, I don't know, a dirty book he had underneath his fucking bed or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was some, he had sort of showcased some of that leathery latex aesthetic with Edward Scissorhands' design, but he was really letting loose a bit with this. And then you, of course, have the inimitable Danny DeVito. Wonderful casting again. Like, if you asked me now if this film had never been made and you said, who do you want to be the Penguin, I would always say Danny DeVito. So the fact he got him for it is genius. And the fact that he's like weird half fish mutant man is so silly, but so, like, again, wonderfully campy.
He is disgusting.
He's so good. Gross, yeah.
It's so great how disgusting he is.
Yeah.
There's like not a moment of this film where Danny DeVito's on screen where I'm not feeling like a little bit ill, and that is exactly what it
But
needed.
again, kind of sympathetic. Like, it's remarkable.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Again, he's kind of being misled, and he's been mistreated and outcast, and he's just trying to find his way in the world, and he gets sort of, obviously in the sort of pantomime psychopathic way, but there is a level of sympathy to the character. And then there's a character who I think tops it all.
Max Shrek.
Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken.
I nearly fucking said Christoph Waltz. I don't know why I did that. I mean,
he'd be pretty good as well, to be fair, in this role. I could see that.
But I mean, come on, Christopher Walken steals the show here.
Oh
somehow.
My God, he
in amongst all of this beautiful stuff, he is the
and
most...
to upstage Danny DeVito wearing that makeup, my God, you have to go hard.
Go ahead. Intimidate me. Bully me if it makes you feel big. I mean, it's not like you can just kill me.
Actually, it's a lot like that.
He's maybe one of the best corporate baddies of all time with this film.
He is.
He's so deliciously evil.
Who'd have thought Selena had a brain to damage? Bottom line, she tries to blackmail me. I'll drop her out a higher window.
Yeah, man. I agree with you. I think if this film has one fault, it's once again that I don't think Tim Burton gives a fuck about Batman.
Batman is so outcast in it. Yeah, he's like, oh,
because I mean, but I can see. I think you're right that people might sort of reject this film in a post Dark Knight world, and Zack Snyder obviously, because nowadays the DC brand is dark, edgy, serious, and this film is like so far from any of those things. It does actually tackle with real themes of like trauma and like abuse, basically, and does take a really empathetic view of the villains, which is like definitely, I agree with you, definitely one of its strongest elements. And don't get me wrong, I really like the Chris Nolan trilogy too, but there is something to be said about having Batman in a kinky sex, incredibly homoerotic film where Catwoman's doing like backflips in like bondage gear, and Christopher Walken's just like screaming his head off, and Danny DeVito has an army of penguins in a sewer. There's something to be said about that.
They strapped like little firework packs to the back of penguins and just let them loose. It was like adorable, and you were like, this is probably a animal rights violation in this day and age, but I don't care for right now, It wasn't
Thunderball. They didn't harpoon any penguins.
They didn't harpoon any of them, quite. Basically, this is what... A lot of elements of this, I feel like, is what the first Batman film is lacking, and that's why it's not quite like that, the classic that a lot of people remember it for being. But, Tim Burton had it in him, and for my money, and I'm sure for yours, that this is the realization of that kind of unparalleled imagination and creativity channeled into this franchise. It's impeccable.
You know what it is? It's Batman and Robin done right. Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher, big respect to him, but it wasn't a very good film. But I don't think the idea of the film was bad. A campy Batman is fine, and Batman Returns is how you do it. And man, he was on a fucking spree at this point, because the next film is Ed Wood.
Do you know that I saw you perform Dracula in Poughkeepsie in 1938?
That was a terrible production. Renfield was a drunk.
I thought it was great. You know, you're much scarier in real life than you are in the movie.
Thank you.
I'm just going to put it straight to S tier again. I personally would put this above Batman Returns.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
And
another one, sadly, like maybe his two best films are entirely overlooked by the majority of not only like moviegoers, but also just Tim Burton fans in general. Like,
I know.
Obviously, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands deserve to be lauded in the way that they are, but Ed Wood, I mean, I guess because story-wise, Ed Wood is so far removed from what he would usually do, and
it's a bit of a niche prospect in a way, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I don't know how big a black and white movie would have been mid-90s, although I guess that Schindler's List was a black and white movie mid-90s, and that was enormous, so maybe that's got nothing to do with it. I don't know, but it could have been something that counted against it, you know. Super different from his aesthetic normally, you know, everyone's expecting, you know, bright colours mixed with the dark goth shit, and this is one of the few films where he goes, I ain't doing the weird goth shit right now. I mean, I am, but like in a very, very different way, and you know, removing the color from the film completely transforms that aesthetic as well. But beyond that, I know you will agree, like it is just a phenomenally acted and written biopic.
Yeah, Ed Wood is by far and away his best film. It's almost perfect, actually. I said that Edward Scissorhands is his like most gorgeous film, but I don't know, Ed Wood is probably neck and neck. I mean, Edward Scissorhands is like more vivid, but to do black and white right, you have to be like a really good director. And I mean, sometimes even really good directors get it wrong, because I think, for example, last year David Fincher got it wrong with Mank, but this is like absolutely gorgeous. And so just for, I know a lot of people probably haven't seen this. If you're watching this and you haven't seen Ed Wood is a film about a sort of very, very, very untalented director, based on a real person, a guy who ended up making a bunch of really shit horror films in the 50s or 60s?
I believe it was 50s, yeah.
50s, yeah.
Mr. Wood, where's the cockpit set?
You're standing in it.
It's got Johnny Depp in it, of course, in one of my absolute favourite performances of his.
Maybe his best role, potentially. It's up there. It's massively
it's up there for sure. Maybe not as iconic as like a Captain Jack, but it's like, in terms of like the attention to detail and like the comedic timing and like the kind of really, really, really subtle emotion, but also with that kind of campy Tim Burton performance.
I mean, they're a perfect. They're a match made in heaven, really. He is able to do both things, as Tim Burton is. You know, like that marriage that between the bright colours and the darkness is exactly where both of them lie. And it's kind of sad and also wonderful to kind of go back to a largely unexplored Johnny Depp performance and be like, wow, wasn't he just such a wonderful actor in his prime? And isn't it? I just really hope that there's a point soon where he can come back and reclaim that kind of passion for the whole thing, because his talent is undoubted, and you know this is a tour de force.
Yeah,
to be as pretentious as possible with my movie language.
But I mean, also not just him, but also Martin Landau as his kind of the buddy film, playing Bela Lugosi.
Sidekick? Fuck you! Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit!
He is just as funny. He's like kind of the yin to that character's yang. He's like completely out of it, but equally delusional about his sort of, not so much his talent, he's like his lack of sort of later career success, which is true, because Bela Lugosi, famous for playing Dracula in the 1930 film, and completely sort of fell off the map because he got screwed over by the studio. So yeah, Bela Lugosi really was kind of impoverished towards the end of his life and not doing that great for himself. And it's like, so yeah, this film is like a double whammy for me in terms of it just being really, really well made and funny and entertaining and really easy to watch. It's also like a really interesting sort of piece of meta commentary on films and like a little history bit on films, because a lot of it, having read up about the real Edward afterwards, is actually surprisingly accurate. It kind of does give you a level of insight that maybe I don't know, you wouldn't normally get from a Hollywood biopic. Even though this one is really kind of jokey and somewhat lighthearted, but I say lighthearted, it also really doesn't shy away from the fact that there's no I guess mild spoiler, but there's no sort of sudden triumph. The film is literally just about a guy who's not that bright and not that talented, just trying the best he can and just essentially failing over and over and over again.
Repeatedly failing, and the film ends on like quite a catastrophic failure, but the way they portray it is like almost whimsical and romantic, like let's run away together,
as they're like booing the film and like throwing stuff at the screen. It's great. I love it. It's an insane sort of true story as well. Like, I mean, obviously embellished for stylistically and glamorized, but the fact that this down and out director or like wannabe director met this incredibly famous down and out actor in just this really chance meeting, and then I don't know, went on to assemble this motley crew of unwanted actors and celebrities. Tim Burton, isn't it?
It's wild that situation ever even happened. So a nice meta commentary on the film process, as well as kind of maybe poking fun at his own career.
For sure, it's definitely his most self-aware film, I'd say. So that's a great film, arguably not as iconic as our next film.
They came in peace.
Mars Attacks, a film based, as I understand it, on some kind of toy set or card game or something.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact details. It's some kind of franchise thing. Now, personally, for me, Mars Attacks is equally terrible as it is fucking awesome. I kind of love it.
It veers super violently between the two. It's like, well, it's disgusting to look at. I will say visually, it's one of Tim Burton's ugliest films. The design of the aliens is kind of infamous for that. Like, I think one of the first big uses of CG in any of his films.
This film is so boldly hideous, I kind of respect it.
Yeah, well, it feels so intentional. That's the thing. Like,
it's so subversive as well. It's like so upfront. I can't believe it was made like the same year as Independence Day. That blows my fucking mind.
That's wild, because by all rights it was a total coincidence. Like, it wasn't, they weren't trying to parody Independence Day. They weren't trying to sort of mock a genre. I mean, I don't know much about the backstory of it, but from my perspective, it kind of almost reminds me of the same way that I don't know, George Lucas might have made Indiana Jones as to like represent old serials that he would watch as a kid, or Flash Gordon, again another nod to like an old era. And Mars Attacks feels much like that, like this really sort of campy B-movie horror, updated and moved into the 90s, into then contemporary times, to kind of shake it up a bit and make it spicy. But it ends up being an absolutely perfect parody of Independence Day, and they came out like months or weeks apart.
It preemptively absolutely destroys the 90s to mid-2000s disaster movie trend that Hollywood saw. It's so cutting with its satire. It is completely absurd in the funniest ways. I can appreciate that aesthetically it's kind of horrible, but there's also a lot going for it that I think it's underlooked. For example, Jack Black showing up to get killed immediately. Michael J. Fox dying immediately. Pierce Brosnan head on a dog.
Yes.
And 2 Jack Nicholsons. I rest my case.
Oh my god, yeah, he plays like the weird, like,
he plays the president, and he plays
the
some
Las
like
Vegas bum kind of character.
Yeah. Man, it's actually quite funny. I mean, I have a soft spot for it. I don't know why. And the bit where it ends with, what's his name, Tom Jones?
Yes.
What the fuck? I don't know why.
They just find him in a Las Vegas casino, and they get what? Do they get him to sing? Is that what?
It ends on in an unusual to be loved by anyone.
That's a great twist where like they can't defeat these aliens with any of their firepower, and then like they go into a room with an old lady listening to music, and then their heads
She's
explode.
yodeling. They just kill the aliens with yodeling. I mean, it's bad, but I kind of love it. I don't know where I would, if you weren't here to be a moderating force, Adam, I'd be very tempted for the lower end of B tier. But I know it belongs in C.
I was almost feeling that. But what else have we got in the B tier?
Well, it's obviously not as good as Batman, but honestly, if you ask me, on a given day,
what would you rather watch?
What would you rather watch? You've got two options. You've got Mars Attacks, you've got Batman. I reckon at least 60 to 70% of the time I'd probably say Mars Attacks, even though it is objectively a worse film from most perspectives.
Mars Attacks
way more interesting to me.
It's a great film to show someone that's never seen it and watch what how they react to it and go, what the fuck am I watching?
It's quite brutal as well. That's one thing I respect about it. It's kind of like this
savage.
ugly looking kids sort of film. It's pretty violent. It's
what it almost
gruesome.
reminds me of visually, like a toned down Starship Troopers, because it has that kind of cutting satire to it as well, and it came out a similar year.
So not as good as Starship Troopers, but we'll put it below Batman. I think it needs a little bit of respect on its name.
It does.
I think it's
it doesn't get enough love.
So what we have next is, surprisingly, you think at this point he would have done one already, but this is Tim Burton's first proper horror film with Sleepy Hollow, starring Johnny Depp once again. And I'll give you a little spoiler, it's not the last time those two actually worked together. It's a little bit of film trivia for you, Adam.
Thank you for keeping me up to date with that.
Once again, a very, very German film. I think this film is okay.
Well, I mean, for me, this film holds a kind of special significance because it's probably, I think, definitely the first horror film I ever saw.
You know what? I think you're probably not alone in it. I think that's probably quite a lot of people's first horror film.
Because, well, I mean, for a start, Tim Burton, and Johnny Depp, kind of, I think there's a disarming quality to those two pairing up. So, certainly for my parents, it was like, oh, Johnny Depp, Tim Burton film, let's watch it as a family. And then it was kind of, as it was beginning, they realised what exactly it was, like what they were getting themselves in for. So like, we would watch it quite often as a family, but anytime there were some really scary bits, my mum would like chuck a blanket over our heads so that we couldn't see through. But I remember the blankets she chose were kind of like knitted, and so you could still see everything.
How old were you at this point? 17?
Yeah, it was last week, mate. I thought it was probably about 6 or 7 when I saw this.
Oh, that makes sense. It does have quite a lot of decapitation in it.
Yes, it does. Right out the fucking gate as well. So it was spooky because again, and it was also a film I saw a lot as a kid and then didn't watch for like a decade and a bit, and then sort of came back to and was like, so it had that kind of mysterious like mythology to it. It was like, oh, remember that really spooky horror film you saw as a kid? So coming back to it now with the my years of knowledge and experience with horror films, it is probably his most middle of the road average film thus far. That's not to discredit a lot of the aspects of it. Again, visually it's really distinctive, like the violence in it is really visceral and like satisfying, particularly all the decapitations and the amount of blood, and there's the tree of the dead or whatever they call it, and it like when it like oozes blood and it's full of like body parts, and then it's like a portal to hell. That's great. But I'm sure you'll agree, the fact that it feels very much like it's filmed on a soundstage, it kind of spoils some of the sort of mystery and horror to it, because you don't necessarily feel as like grounded in the world, because it kind of feels very limited and it feels very stage-like.
That bothered me. I think this must have been one of the first horror films I saw as a kid as well. I found that to be very distracting as a kid. But having now seen a bunch of Hammer horror films, I can kind of see what they were going for with that sound. I don't know if they did it particularly well, but it certainly has that quality to it.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have probably gone further with it if that's what they were going for, though that would have made it much more unmarketable. My big problem with this film is I think aesthetically it's very strong. The costume design is amazing, as always, and you know, all the makeup and effects are amazing. But the biggest issue I have with this film is that the most interesting character in this film is once again Christopher Walken showing up for about 5 minutes. I mean, he's amazing in it as like Vlad the Impaler or whatever. He's playing some like bizarre version of Vlad the Impaler where he's like this warlord on a horse with a mental hairstyle, like slicing people up. It's fucking cool. Johnny Depp is like a wet fart in this film. And what's her name? Christina Ricci?
Christina Ricci, yeah.
Yeah, she's like very bland in this. And there's like some other like big name actors in it. I think doesn't Christopher Lee show up at some point? It's very forgettable on the character front.
I think right at the beginning Christopher Lee's in it as like one of the like heads of police or a judge or something. Michael Gambon's in this, and an appearance from what's the bloody, I had his name right in my fucking head. The guy that plays Palpatine, what's his name?
Oh, Ian McDiarmid.
I
remember that.
So
actually,
it's kind of rogue seeing him outside of Star Wars, which is kind of fun.
Maybe the only thing I've seen him in outside of Star Wars, actually.
For me, certainly, yeah. But I think a big thing that lets this film down is its dialogue. I think story-wise, structure-wise, it's pretty strong. Like, you know, it builds to a satisfying twist and conclusion. There's a lot of like decent action and violence. The set pieces are quite satisfying. But I think the way they've written the characters and a lot of what the characters have to say to one another is really kind of either surface level or just kind of weak. It doesn't really do the characters service. Like, everything they say is quite like unbelievable and kind of wet. Like the interaction between Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp's characters is quite like undercooked, if you like.
They have like no chemistry together. And I mean, if you're gonna, like, I have a lot of love for like campy, silly horror films. Like, you're kind of shooting fish in a barrel for me. But like, if you're gonna do it, you either need to make it actually a little bit scary or really funny. And this does neither. Like, it's got some spooky like imagery in it, and it's got some nice detail, but it's not really particularly scary, and it doesn't have any super goofy like plot mechanics. Like, you've got the Headless Horseman, but I think
they try for some goofiness with Ichabod, Johnny Depp's character's
Ichabod Crane.
Yes, his obsession with newfangled science, which for then, you know, that era is totally unheard of and untested, and there's some they try and get some gags out of that, but it's pretty minimal in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, I can definitely see eye to eye with you on that.
Where are you feeling on the list?
I'd go C. You know, I think
I'll go high C.
Yeah, there's still a lot of merit to the film, but
it's difficult for me to recommend above a lot of other very similar films.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I would only recommend it to people who were either big fans of Tim Burton or kind of movie completionists. You know, like, oh, have you seen all of the Burton films or all of the horror films that you could possibly have seen? Like, and you know, again, style-wise, it has, you know, a voice of its own that not a lot of horror films have necessarily gone for, but it's not particularly scary, it's not particularly funny or gripping or distinctive beyond its style. So yeah, C tier.
So, it's time to talk about Planet of the Apes.
Take your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human!
A film I feel basically nobody remembers actually happened. That would be Planet of the Apes, starring Mark Wahlberg. This film, see, you're talking about Sleepy Hollow having a special place in your childhood. Planet of the Apes, for me, has kind of a weird special place in my childhood, although I never saw it as a kid. I just thought the cover looked fucking cool. And my parents had it on DVD, and it had this big monkey face, and I was like, wow, that looks fucking badass. And I was completely right. This film is absolutely badass. I think it's absolutely fascinating as a film, but my God, it is quite bad. I don't know if it's F tier bad. There are actually quite a lot of impressive things about it. I don't think we will ever see another film try and make a film with monkeys in it, like monkeys that do things or are sort of anthropomorphized in some way, and actually try and do it practically. Genuinely quite impressive. I think in terms of a lot of the effects work and a lot of the visual stuff, way out of his ballpark. I mean, this is so dissimilar aesthetically from all of the other stuff he's done so far on this list.
Well, like a big budget sci-fi film is just not really his wheelhouse. I mean,
it's got all this like weird wire work, like he's like seen an Ang Lee film or something, and it's got like I don't know, very bizarre, and I don't know why the hell a studio cast him to direct this, but it's just so interesting. I don't think I could put it quite in F tier. What are you saying?
Well, I think I might be able to put it in F tier. I think that for a start, Mark Wahlberg is
he's so bad,
fucking atrocious in this film. I've never seen a more perfect argument for, like, you know, a director's effect on an actor, because like watching Mark Wahlberg in a film like Boogie Nights, I was blown away. I was like, this guy can act? What the fuck?
Yeah, The Departed.
And you see, yeah, exactly. And then you see him in this, and you go, oh, so it was Scorsese and Anderson that were doing the good work behind the scenes, you know.
They made him do another take. I don't know if Tim Burton would have been bothered.
I don't know if it was just like a bad pairing, or to be honest, Mark Wahlberg is just kind of miscast for this whole thing, because he, especially to a lot of people nowadays, is known as like a buff action star, and he kind of has that air to him even in this film, and yet the film doesn't call for that from the role at all. The character is quite sort of, I guess, scientific, adventurous, but, you know, brave and cautious, and, you know, like there's levels to it, and it's just played like a brick fucking wall. Right. He has nothing going.
Okay, Adam, you're forgetting a few things in favour of this film. Number one, this is the only film you've ever seen where Mark Wahlberg has a romance with a monkey, so note that down.
Fair enough.
Secondly, greatest twist of all time.
Okay.
Come on. That twist might be... I would happily rewatch this film with someone who hasn't seen it, to show them that twist.
The Abraham Lincoln Memorial.
It's so inspired. Oh my god.
I think it's how it comes out of nowhere. Like, honestly,
I guess they just remembered last minute. They're like, oh yeah,
we need a twist.
That Planet of the Apes film, it was famous for like a big twist, wasn't it? Oh fuck. What do we do? Oh, he's going back to Earth. Why won't we just make them all monkeys?
There was supposed to be a lot more fleshing out of that bit that they had to like axe or leave on the cutting room floor. As far as I'm aware, you know, he goes back in. What's supposed to happen is he's supposed to go back in time, but is it Caesar? He's gone back before him. He's like beaten him to it, and so, you know, turned Earth into this,
so he was
monkey
supposed to like defeat Caesar on Earth or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or you know, and so he gets there and he sees the memorial is changed into a monkey, but it's not supposed to be as overtly comedic. It's supposed to be like, I've beaten you here, and, you know, transformed the environment. But what it instead looks like is he lands on like a world that was like, I
don't know what the implication was. Yeah,
like maybe he went to a different dimension where the apes.
I think that's supposed to be it, or like either that, or he lands on Earth, but somehow people devolve, I guess, back to monkeys. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
as a non sequitur is one of the funniest things.
It is super funny.
I mean, yeah, sure, we'll put it in F tier, but it's a high F tier. It's better than as bad as it is, it's better than quite a few other films on this list.
You also forget how boring a lot of it is, because for as
it is quite boring. It has a very wet final battle as well. It doesn't really quite build to anything, and the romance between Helena Bonham Carter as a monkey, Mark Wahlberg, is very fucking weird. It's not unmemorable, which can't be said for a lot of these other films.
Stop! While I took the beating of a lifetime, it was Don Price who was ultimately defeated. All the physical activity had worsened a congenital valve defect. Put simply, his heart wasn't strong enough.
I guess this film here is seen as a return to form. Big Fish. Ewan McGregor, one of those sort of uplifting, coming-of-age type films, but with a kind of unique setup where it's like, what is it, someone's grandfather is dying, or his father. Is it his father? I think it's his father.
His
right?
father, yeah.
Yeah, and he wants to like get to know his father, but his father is basically just an unreliable narrator and starts talking about his life, clearly with some embellishment on reality.
Yes, yeah, it's very fantastical and fairy tale like, much like, you know, Tim Burton loves a story like that. So.
Yeah. Tonally, it's pretty close to something like Forrest Gump. I mean, obviously the character in this isn't quite simple, but he's like a man of simple wants.
He's an uncomplicated man. He's quite pure in his intentions.
This film, I think is okay. It doesn't really charm me in the same way I know it does for a lot of people. I can completely see the appeal. I think one of the big issues for this film for me is Ewan McGregor, who is very good. But
is it his accent?
That accent is woof. That is
I
bad.
feel like he's kind of famous, apart from his English accent for Star Wars, he's quite infamous for bad accents.
Yeah, I mean, he's great as Obi-Wan in a way. I mean, it's not a great performance, but his accent is actually quite good in that. If you watch him in Star Wars doing it as like an Alec Guinness impersonation, once you kind of think of it like that.
Oh yeah, no,
good,
I agree. I was saying that he was good in that. I'm in, say, I don't know, the Beauty and the Beast remake, his French accent is abhorrent. I mean, I have a massive respect for Ewan McGregor. I think he is often a great actor. Sometimes he slips up, but most of the time he's fantastic. And I think here he has like a real like sweet charm to him. Like he really pulls off, you know, kind of cheesy southern accent. Hey there, doll. Kind of whatever. Type shit. He really pulls off the energy of the character and the heart of it all. I mean, I personally really enjoy this film. I don't think it's necessarily one of Tim Burton's greatest achievements, but I do think it's like a really like wholesome, vivid and creative film that, you know, a sort of return to his early 90s form, you know, like it could easily have sat in that, you know, era of films and blended in perfectly. I love Billy Crudup's side of the story as well, where he's trying to like work out. He's like reluctant to sort of build bridges with his father, who he's like, oh, he's been lying to me my whole life.
That element of the film was much better to me, I think. I do like the kind of dreamlike, kind of pastoral, really vivid flashback scenes as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the two marry together very well. Like, yeah, like this sort of fantastical dreamland that and then the harsh reality of, you know, an elderly patriarch, you know, dying and his son having unresolved issues with him. I think it's a really great framework for that story, and I think the payoff at the end is really satisfying and
it does have
touching.
a good emotional hit at the end of it. I will say that. I don't know, it didn't quite grab me in the way some of his earlier stuff did, but I do think it's a very good film. I don't know where I'd place it.
I would go high B. I think it's better than all of the B tier ones.
I think I can agree with that. Maybe I need another watch of it, because there were a lot of elements of it that I really liked, especially all of the really weird stuff, you know, involving, you know, the big fish right at the beginning. And it does kind of have that zany sense of humour, like the childbirth scene. She like gives birth to the baby and it's like flying through the hospital.
Oh yeah, like
that kind of stuff. That kind of Tim Burton is like, that's perfect for me. And it does have a really good emotional payoff. I feel like I'm happy with high B. Right. Okay, this is where it starts to get difficult.
Oh dear, so I think I know what's coming
next. That might be the last truly good Tim Burton film. I mean, so if you were,
we have. I think there's one more coming up, but one quite good one. But yeah, it's pretty bleak from here on out. This is a real turning point, isn't it?
Yeah. If you were enjoying us saying nice things about Tim Burton and you're a big Tim Burton fan, just close the video right now.
Violet, you're turning violet. What's happening?
Well, I told you I hadn't quite got it right.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a film. It was actually part of my childhood. My mum loved it, and at the time, as a kid, I thought it was fucking awesome.
Well, this came out at a perfect point where, you know, a lot of these older
he was
Tim
a household
Burton films,
name by now.
Yeah, well, there's that, and also a lot of the older films we would have seen kind of in passing or kind of been introduced to, like, oh, you know, our parents may have watched it and recorded it and shown it to us or whatever. But this one came out bang when we were around sort of 10, and it was in the cinemas, it was everywhere, there was all this promotion for it. Do you remember they had like the chocolate bars they made up for it, the Wonka's chocolate? Did you ever encounter that?
I can't remember that. I remember the big thing for me was Johnny Depp was riding high after Pirates.
True, yes. Yeah,
that was the big thing, because after that, Johnny Depp was, for a long period of time, the biggest actor in the world, basically.
Yeah, it was the first time any of us had ever heard of him, for sure.
Yeah, it was like the stars aligned, but they happened to just block out the sun and give us this kind of incredibly ugly film. It's annoying to me because this film is like, it's very Tim Burton in a way that's kind of unavoidable. It's really kind of doing that obnoxious, zany humour that I was just saying how much I enjoyed. And sometimes it's quite funny, and sometimes it's really not. But crucially, this is the rock bottom for Mr. Danny Elfman. This has one of the worst scores I've ever seen. You turn this on in the first 5 minutes, the opening sequence with that ugly CGI chocolate bar getting poured, and then little helicopter chocolate bars, and the score's going. It's like, wow, I want to fucking scrape my ears out. In fact, what I just did just then is like 10 times better than what Danny Elfman actually recorded and filmed.
I might loop that. That'd be my lullaby to get to sleep tonight.
I respect the idea of what they were going for. What it's trying to do, in my mind, what Tim Burton wanted to do was kind of correct a lot of things that he saw as wrong with the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. For number one, the title was wrong. Right. They called it Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory or whatever. But that film's actually really good. And, they corrected it because that film was set in America and it didn't have the songs with the lyrics that Roald Dahl wrote for the book. But he also, I think he bastardized it way more than that remake did. Despite the fact the remake does change a lot about Roald Dahl's book, it gets the core feeling of the original Roald Dahl book completely right, that kind of whimsical element. And this film adds a lot of pointless bullshit as well. And it shows you that, look, the lyrics to the songs in the Roald Dahl book, they work when you read them, but man, if you're going to do them this badly, just come up with the Oompa Loompa song.
Yeah, exactly. Way more distinctive and memorable. And all the music in the Willy Wonka film is so like leagues ahead of this, because
again, the Candyman can. I mean,
yeah, and
imagination,
world imagination. Yeah. Again, it's not even necessarily that the lyrics to what Roald Dahl wrote were ill suited to an actual sort of be fitted to music. It's that the music that Danny Elfman wrote to fit to it was atrocious. Like, if this came out as an album separate from anything else, it would be one of the most god-awful albums of all time. Like, it's indescribably grating and obnoxious. It just is audio vomit. Okay, so going beyond that, I mean, visually, again, this is a moment where Tim Burton steps away from his usual practical side and goes for a lot of CGI, and I will say a lot of that CGI is really hideous.
Really bad. There's like moments where it looks, not the CGI itself, but there are like moments of design that are pretty good.
Well, I think how colourful it is and how vibrant kind of works. I think
there are like some sets that work.
The squirrel one is really nice. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, the squirrel one is great. Actually, that's probably one of the better sequences in the film. And I don't think this film is without funny moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you say, actually, I think that whole sequence is quite good. That's probably just a scene that they did right.
And that's probably the least bad song in the film.
I don't remember the song, and I'm glad I don't.
It's not good. The first two are distinctly less shit than the other ones, I would say. Right. By the time you get to the Mike TV song, it's unbearable. That is like,
they're doing this shit rock
horrendous
song.
Yeah, so bad. But the Augustus Gloop one and the Veruca Salt ones are like not quite so bad. And I think another core problem is Johnny Depp. I kind of see what he was going for, and I'm glad that he did something different, because like, you're never going to beat the original.
The whole weird Michael Jackson element of the thing is really distracting. Even at the time, it was distracting. Everyone was kind of like, as a kid who knew limited things about Michael Jackson, like of his career or his mannerisms, I was still like, why is this guy doing a Michael Jackson impression? Like, I knew enough.
Weird timing as well, right?
Right, yeah. Unfortunate for him, for Johnny Depp.
I think the biggest plot sin this commits is, for some reason, adding in a fucking backstory for Willy Wonka, which just goes like, if you're gonna do a more faithful version, just commit to that. Don't sort of gesture at it and then add this fucking weird backstory.
I feel like what it does is, like they add the backstory about him having a father that was like banned him from having chocolate, and he had the weird braces. That was probably the most Tim Burton style part of the film, actually.
Yeah, it probably was. It felt out of place.
It did. I mean, the thing is, it's like they made the conscious choice. They were like, hey, the original film adaptation changed the name to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And it's like, the story is inherently about Charlie and him being sort of this pure-hearted child that is deserving of this, to inherit this thing. And so you've retitled it Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as though to put emphasis back on Charlie. And then you make it all about Willy Wonka again. It's just another Willy Wonka film. You may as well have got... In fact, it would probably be a more appropriate title for this film than the older film to call this one Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's still kind of that same era. And again, there's nothing inherently wrong with that era. But like you say, it's combined with the supposed effort to make it more like the original. It's just baffling, really. What are you feeling on it? Yeah.
Maybe a low D tier. I don't know if it's quite F. There are elements of it that are like real F.
Yes.
Like,
I mean,
the score alone makes me want to put it in F, but I don't know if it's as bad as Planet of the Apes. Like, Planet of the Apes is a film that is broken.
Whereas Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is a film that's ugly.
I think it gets a bit more of a pass, partly because the source material is good.
It's so inventive. Like, there's still something to be gained from all the visuals and stuff. Like the set design for the Augustus Gloop Chocolate River bit's quite nice.
I think the kids are actually quite funny as well.
Yeah, they've cast good actors for the kids. Yeah, for sure.
Especially the villainous kids. I don't really care about the Charlie kid.
Yeah, no, he's a bit too straight-laced.
I think the younger kids actually did a pretty good job.
Do you remember, that for the Mike TV bit, they bizarrely chose for them to go inside 2001: A Space Odyssey?
I do remember that.
What the fuck is that?
And I love it. I don't know why the fuck they decided to do that. That is so weird.
Again, that's one of those moments where you're like, is that genius or is that fucking terrible?
Oh, it's terrible. Maybe Tim Burton had just recently seen it.
He's just been binging some Kubrick and he was like,
you guys, have you ever heard of this film, 2001: A Space Odyssey? I'm going to put it in my film, and I'm going to put one of my characters in the film, in that film, in my film.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
Was it a retro reference to Planet of the Apes? Because you know how, like, the intro to 2001: A Space Odyssey, the monkey suits kind of...
Yeah, I was thinking there is that similarity for sure. Yeah, maybe that is.
I don't know. Yeah, not a great film, not a total failure, but very annoying. And it's more frustrating for me because I feel like Tim Burton has a great Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film in him, and it just feels like a wasted opportunity more than anything.
With this candle, I will light your way in darkness. With this ring, I ask you to be mine.
Tim Burton, up until this point, hadn't done an animated film either, which again seems weird because his films feel very animated. So it makes sense, right? He does Corpse Bride. I personally am incredibly ambivalent on this film. It's got its charms. It's not bad. I just don't know if I'd ever watch it again. I've seen it quite a few times and I still struggle to really recall much of it.
To me, it feels kind of like a spiritual successor to A Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, it has a very similar aesthetic, the kind of, the use of stop motion, obviously. But what it lacks in comparison is, like, I mean, the story is quite gripping, but it doesn't have, I think, the same level of characterization for a lot of them that there could be. I think the corpse bride, the titular character, excellently played and very detailed character as well. She is the core of the film and she's what makes the film tick. There's like musical numbers to the film, aren't there? And I can't remember any of them.
Yeah, very weak music. I agree. Actually, I you know what? I completely forgot that it was a musical. But now that you said that, I remember watching it and thinking, wow, these songs are just not very good. Especially when, you know, you think about, I mean, a lot of people think, you know, this Nightmare Before Christmas is Tim Burton, and the songs from that are like so iconic. They're
100%.
absolute earworms. They go fucking hard. Corpse Bride's got nothing, man. And I think, once again, Johnny Depp is very, very wet in this role. Not wet. I know his character is supposed to be pathetic, but he's also just not memorable. I don't know how much of it's down to like writing or just Tim Burton focusing too much on the aesthetics and not directing his actors enough. Whatever it is, he's just not a great fit for this film, I don't think.
For being as major of a role in it as he is, like, I think that is genuinely a really weak part of the whole thing.
You know who they should have got? They should have got Woody Allen.
I mean, I'm glad not given like the how vilified he is nowadays.
Like, how come those two never made a film together? I feel like Woody Allen is like a...
his neurotic kind of style would definitely have suited the role for sure. I think Johnny Depp's character is weak. I think like some of the parent characters are really entertaining. Richard E. Grant as the villain is really fun.
Oh, he was good. He was really good.
And the finale where they kind of trick him into dying and like they do the whole wedding ceremony thing, I think that's a really great ending to the film. But I think a lot of the film kind of meanders. Strong opening and setup, boring songs and everything else in the middle, but good characterization from Helena Bonham Carter, and then a strong ending. For me, it's just a bit flimsy in the middle. For that reason, I would call it a C tier.
C tier, I agree. I don't think it's particularly funny either. It has its moments, but even for the sort of low standards at this point in his career, not particularly funny. I would probably put it below Sleepy Hollow. I don't know if you agree.
I couldn't really pick between them, to be honest.
I'm going to put it below just because I feel like if you're going to do a film that has musical numbers and you can't deliver like even one really memorable, catchy one...
I seem to remember like the first one, like the introduction one, being quite good, or
but
at least
you can't
kind of
sing
funny.
it to me right
now.
No,
I can't.
Because that's the thing. I could even sing you songs from the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory film, and I could definitely sing you like most of the Nightmare Before Christmas. Because
it's funny. I've had What's This stuck in my head the entire way we've discussed this film. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, speaking of musicals, we then have what is truly the last great film of Tim Burton's career, Sweeney Todd.
Even as polite, the worst boys in London. If you dare to take a bite, is that just disgusting? You have to concede it. It's nothing but frosting. You drink this, you made it.
A film that I hadn't seen until we decided to watch it.
Did you not?
For this, I had not seen it before. I'd seen parts of it, and I was always intrigued by it, but put off by the fact that it was a musical, and I used to really not care for musicals, but it won me over. I guess, this is also probably the most violent film he ever made. Even more so than Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
And also the whole thing is a musical, so... quite different.
This shows that he does really have an aptitude for it. I mean, obviously, we can't really count Nightmare Before Christmas, but he definitely had a hand in the inception of all that stuff. So, but yeah, this is the first time he's truly proven himself to be able to be capable of a musical. And stylistically, I think it does kind of follow on from Sleepy Hollow in that kind of
definitely
really grey, bleak.
I mean, look at the posters; they look so similar.
They do. I think also the kind of late Victorian sort of industrial revolution
almost
era stuff,
steampunky in a way, because Sleepy Hollow has that thing with some of his like weird gadgets.
This is also one of the last really good Johnny Depp performances. Like I think he could have gone a bit further in places with it. Maybe he could have been a bit larger than life than he was, but I still think that he does like a really good job of like being simultaneously incredibly evil and sinister, and also maintaining some level of sympathy that obviously kind of gets lost more and more down the film as he goes, allows himself to sort of, to be susceptible to his inner demons. Helena Bonham Carter's fantastic as well, doing what she does best, which is crazy evil hag.
Baron Cohen in this film. Sacha Baron Cohen is fucking amazing.
He is, yes.
It's gutting he's not in it for longer. I think the opening 20-30 minutes or so of this film are like amazing, like some of the best stuff Tim Burton ever did. And the comedy sequence with him and Sacha Baron Cohen with like the hair cutting competition is just amazing. And like you can just tell like Sacha Baron Cohen is having an absolute like blast and he's like loving it. It's so funny, it's so great. I love that. I do think the film becomes a little repetitive. At first it does a really, really good job of feeling like a film and not just like they filmed a play type thing. And I think after a while it does feel a little like repetitive and like they're kind of showing you the same stuff, and you can kind of see that in terms of like the screenwriting where they've kind of cut it together into a screenplay. But it's, as I said, really violent, and the gore in it's really, really great. I love all the stuff with the chair, the custom murder chair he has. That just like
flings them down into a chute,
flings bodies down a shaft, and they just kind of splat and crunch horrifically
in the most like gory Wallace and Gromit contraption of all time.
exactly like that. And it does have a pretty satisfying payoff as well. I think it's got a good ending. It's sort of quite tragic and very theatre-y. This is for like the grown-up theatre kids. I feel like they probably all love it.
Yeah, it's like your edgy, theatre kids' teenage phase. Like, oh yeah,
this ain't your mama's theatre.
Yeah, exactly. And also, let's not forget our boy Alan Rickman.
Oh yeah, man.
Big bless up, big rip, because he's
the villain, isn't he?
He is, and he's. I mean. This isn't one of his most notable roles, I would say, but just, I mean, anytime he comes up, you've got to put respect on his name, do you know what I mean?
I don't remember him being in it a whole lot, but yeah, you've got to respect Alan Rickman anytime he's on screen. I would probably put this low A.
I'm not sure I'd go that high, but I'm more feeling high B, personally.
I would personally put it above Big Fish.
Maybe so, but even then, I would still probably put it in the
Okay,
B.
we'll go with that.
The Bandersnatch. Well, I'd better have a look.
What are you doing?
It needs to be purified by someone with evaporating skills, or it will fester and putrefy.
Oh boy, okay. What a way to kick off the Disney live action version of beloved animated films, Alice in Wonderland. And I'm going to waste no time in putting this as his worst film. And honestly, maybe my least favourite film of all time.
Really?
I hate this film. I hated every second of watching it. It's one of the most repulsively ugly, incredibly boring, completely charmless, just so full of pointless shit and yet completely empty at the same time. It's actually impressive to me how worthless this film is on every single level. People talk about, the new Disney live action films. I would rather watch the new Lion King or the new Mulan 100 times over than ever watch this again. It is so horrible. I hate it. I hate this film.
I mean,
it's so bad. I hate Johnny Depp in it. I hate every other. I can't. Who else is even in it? It's got the main girl in it.
Wachowski?
That's it, Mia Wachowski or something like that. She's a good actress. I hate this film. I hate her in it. Oh, and I hate Helena Bonham Carter in it. Have you got anything else to add?
I mean, I do agree with you on pretty much everything you've just said. I think what's infuriating for me is how many people actually quite enjoy this film and don't see all the flaws that it's bugged with. I think maybe that's because of the whimsical world it takes place in, and people are like, oh, but it's Alice in Wonderland and things like that. But if you break it down fundamentally, it can't be understated that this is one of the ugliest films ever made, especially for its budget. I mean, proportionally to its budget, maybe yes, the ugliest film ever made. Yeah, every performance is.
It's got two Peter K's. Oh, not Peter K. Sorry, two
Matt Lucas's.
Two Matt Lucas's, which is two more than you should ever have in a film.
Yeah, Matt Lucas is quite fucking annoying in general. I mean, every character in this is really annoying. I mean, Alice is the most sort of level-headed, as is written in the original, but she's still she's wet as and bland as hell. Like, there's nothing really going for that characterization, but it's probably just like the least offensive. And maybe you could say, Stephen Fry was a good pick for the Cheshire Cat, but again, they barely use him in the film. So other than those minor, not even positives, neutral points, everything else is fucking terrible.
I hate how they tried to turn it into like Lord of the Rings. Like, Alice in Wonderland is a really simple story. You're supposed to go by on, primarily the visuals. That's what the original animated does really well, is kind of delivering a really simple, fish out of water story, with some fantasy elements as a sort of placeholder to just, show off some really impressive surreal visuals with a satisfying story. This adds this, it turns it into the Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings with this weird political feuding that is kind of in the original in some way, but oh man, it is so I was so uninvested. You're right. I don't understand how people ate this up, because this is one of his, if not his most successful film ever.
Yes, it broke a bill.
It broke $1 billion at the box office, and I have a very distinct memory of when I had a Tumblr account back in 2011. There was this gif of Johnny Depp's character saying, "I'm okay," and then looking sad, and people had 100 reblogs, and people wow, no. look at this acting, wow, this is an actor. It's no, it's not. What, an actor showed some emotion that he didn't actually have. Fucking shock.
Wow.
Are you joking?
The bare minimum of what is required. His performance in this is shockingly terrible. But
So bad.
I think the writing is also just abhorrent as well.
It's so badly edited as well.
Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to make the Mad Hatter do that shit? And then the dance he does at the end to add insult to injury. Do you remember that?
Oh god, I can't remember exactly what it was like, but I have the image in my head. I think genuinely I've repressed it.
Let's not dwell on it any longer than it has to be. If you like Alice in Wonderland, I suggest you reevaluate it, because it is really fundamentally rotten to its core, and a fresh take on it might be necessary. Not that you should be as cynical as us, but you should in this instance.
It's fine if you like it. I just never want to speak to you as a person.
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.
Actually, a fair bit more interesting, although kind of one of his least notable films, Dark Shadows.
Yes.
I don't know how this ever got greenlit. It only ever got greenlit, clearly, because I guess Tim Burton was attached to it. That really must be the only thing.
I think it was just I think it was a Tim Burton passion project, this one.
Yeah, because it's based on an old 50s show or something.
Yeah, it's an old TV show about a vampire that kind of is awakened in a modern age.
No one remembers it. It is an absolute mess. 100 characters doing 100 things. It introduces this main character who, I'm barely exaggerating, has literally barely anything to do with the plot in this film, who basically exists to go around and introduce herself as a fish out of water and then immediately disappear into the background. She had some kind of romance with a character. I think that's really all she does.
She's supposed to be the visual reincarnation of Johnny Depp's old lover.
That's right.
It ends up becoming important because then there's a jealous spurned other sort of vampiric character, Eva Green.
Oh, that's right. She is very, very much in this film. She is really going for it.
She really hams the hell out of it, which I kind of respect, to be honest. So the whole thing is she threatens him to threatens that she's going to kill the woman if he doesn't do something. I really can't remember the plot, but what I will say is, for as weird and as fucking scatterbrained and pointless of a movie it is, it really doesn't feel like it has anything distinctive stylistically or to say. It's not particularly comedic, it's not particularly scary, it's not particularly
I would say it's quite
adventurous.
Funny at points. It's hard to say when it's trying to be funny.
That's the thing.
There's a point where someone comes back from the dead and they're in the forest, and then they see the McDonald's sign, and it's got a horror sting. It's
yeah.
Very, very strange. I mean, I don't think it's a complete waste, and I would recommend it over Planet of the Apes or Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, I think it's a funny mess. I think I rewatched it. When we rewatched it, I was genuinely surprised by how entertaining it was. I don't think a lot of that entertainment is necessarily intentional, but I think some of the campiness and maybe perhaps some of the passion that Tim Burton seemed to be really lacking throughout a lot of the 2000s and 2010s kind of flashed up here and there in this film. I don't think it necessarily made for, that didn't translate into quality, but I do think he cared about this one. Whereas Alice in Wonderland looks like he was just getting it out of the way kind of
I don't know. I feel like he really was trying with Alice in Wonderland.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think he just didn't do it well, and he edited it with a hedge trimmer, so it came out like that. Dark Shadows, I would put it probably above Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
High D tier? Yeah.
Yeah, D tier.
Yeah, I don't think it deserves to be above that, but I will say I get enjoyment out of the experience.
It's less obnoxious than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and there is a bias to me putting it above Charlie and the Chocolate Factory because I do love the book for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory so much that it feels like more of a betrayal. Dark Shadows, nobody except for Tim Burton gives a fuck about the Dark Shadows 50s show. Yeah,
exactly.
So while it's like a mess, it's not really boring, and it has kind of funny, weird moments. It also has like some god-awful moments as far as I remember, but yeah, you're right, it's a complete mess. Do you remember that it had like a sequel sort of baiting ending as well?
I forget.
Where like she's stuck under the sea or something? Helena Bonham Carter?
Oh, does she get She's
like still alive under the sea or something. Very weird. Oh, well, that's one thing I will say in favour of this film. It does have some very entertaining, weird sequences with these kind of like sexual, kinky scenes with people flying around. And
the one with Eva Green and Johnny Depp just like throwing each other around a room is quite funny.
When it commits to a set piece, there's something to watch. I'll say that much for it. Okay.
Mr. Whiskers had a dream about you last night.
How do you know?
'Cause this morning he made this.
Oh.
So I guess a lot of people consider this to be a bit of a return to form. I don't know how much I really agree. Frankenweenie, certainly when you compare it to the absolute dog shit that is Alice in Wonderland and the mess that is Dark Shadows, certainly better than those two films.
Undoubtedly.
Supremely forgettable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, for a start, it almost doesn't really count as a 2010s Burton film because this was the very first story idea that Tim Burton ever had.
Yeah.
And back in the early to mid 80s, he made it into a short. And I believe that short actually got him fired from I think Disney at the time, because he used a bunch of their money to fund it, and then it was
like live action or something.
Yeah, they were like, what the fuck is this? Get out, essentially. Not knowing they essentially spawned his whole career because,
well, they came crawling back in the end, didn't they?
If it hadn't been for that, he wouldn't have had that shot at the big time. Tim Burton is just all over the place quality wise in this era, and sure, it never really spikes above kind of high ends of average, but Frankenweenie is at least a watchable, tolerable, somewhat enjoyable film.
I think the context of it having originally been a short film is kind of important because you kind of do feel the how basic it is. It's cute and it is kind of funny, and it does have that fun set piece with the giant tortoise.
The kaiju tortoise.
Yeah, like that's fun, and there's like cute moments, and it is a cute idea, but yeah, the animation is like alright. It's not as good as it was in Corpse Bride, weirdly. It's just very alright in my opinion. There's nothing about it that's exceptional. It's like a kind of weirdly like a budget Leica.
Yeah, it does feel like a kind of Coraline type film. Yeah,
I mean, he's worked with Henry Selick, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
I would put it bottom of C tier. Not a whole lot to say on it. I think I prefer Corpse Bride.
So where do you get your ideas? What do you mean?
I mean, why are they all images of children?
Big Eyes, starring Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz. I guess this is the time where Tim Burton realised, hey, I don't have any Oscars. What the fuck? Time for me to make an incredibly bland and middle-of-the-road drama film about a social issue. So that's what he did, I guess. He made Big Eyes. Really a film for me that is completely unnotable, apart from the fact that Christoph Waltz gives one of the absolute worst performances I've ever seen a really talented actor give.
It is appalling.
I went to Paris, or whatever he says.
He's chewing the scenery in the absolute worst way possible, especially because the film really doesn't call for it. I think one of the worst things about the film as well is how much like a Lifetime TV movie it looks like.
Yeah,
there is so little of Tim Burton's like personality and artistic flair comes through this, even though he has been making like on and off sort of dog shit for the last few years by this point. At least those films felt like it was made by Tim Burton. You know, the very least you could say about them. This film could have been made by literally anyone.
I completely agree. If you showed me this film and then asked me to guess who directed it, it would take me a while to get to Tim Burton, because there's just like barely any Tim Burton DNA in it. The only real thing you have going for it is very Tim Burton-y is Amy Adams being a misunderstood and oppressed artist in a society that doesn't understand her.
Maybe the art style of the paintings themselves, like I guess there's something kind of gothic about that. I mean, this film has probably gone under the radar as one of Burton's least memorable, least well-known films of his entire career, and this time there's a really good reason for it. It's because it's boring and shit.
I would put it in F tier, probably above Planet of the Apes. I don't know, actually.
I don't know if I'd go quite F tier, because it's too bland to really say like that it's like awful on every single facet.
But what does it have going for it?
Well, it's more what doesn't it have, like dragging it down in the same way that Planet of the Apes and Alice in Wonderland do.
See,
like, yeah, it's some really bad performances, bland performance from Amy Adams, but not a terrible one. Bland direction, bland everything, but at the same time,
that makes it worse for me.
I know. I do agree. It's a bad film, like a really bad film. And again, one I've heard people give a pass to. Maybe for that exact reason, it's like so bland you can't really think of reasons why you would hate it. I would personally go very low D tier. If we had E, I would probably put it there. I think it's comparably bad to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, for all of its many, many flaws, occasionally quite funny and occasionally quite interesting to look at. I can't say either of those things about Big Eyes. And there's nothing standing there to fill that void in terms of, well, at least it's got this great performance, or at least it actually says something about these social issues. It really doesn't.
No.
There are hundreds of great feminist films you could watch, and this is just not one of them. Tim Burton does not care about this story, from what I can gather from this.
No.
The passion he put into this. I have to put it in F tier. I'm sorry. I'll
Fair
put
enough.
it in high F tier. It's better than Planet of the Apes, but I would rather watch Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
to be
100%.
Very clear.
100%. I just remembered that really fucking boring climax of the film where they're at the court and they're trying to he's trying to prove that he did the paintings, not her. That is an impressively boring set piece. Are you seriously building towards like a sort of montage of them painting?
The best thing I can say about it is the real life story is interesting, but you may as well read the fucking Wikipedia page, because you'll get more from it.
Exactly, you genuinely will.
Jane!
I'll hold him off as long as I can.
Are you going to realize you are a terrible shot with that thing?
Get the others. I'll meet you at the loop entrance.
So, not content with never getting an Oscar, he decides he's going to have a crack at, another sort of film trend. Quite late in the game, decides to hop on the young adult fiction bandwagon.
Blimey, I forgot about this film.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I mean, really...
it's what it is X-Men meets Harry Potter meets Nanny McPhee, or some shit like that.
Which I could see really working as a Tim Burton film, but man, it does not at all.
The amount of not just duds in this era of Tim Burton's career, but just like completely forgettable shit. Like just evaporates out of your brain the moment you watch it.
Yeah,
this
100%.
film has Samuel L. Jackson as one of its main villains, right? As the main villain. I say that. Samuel L. Jackson's been in a lot of bad films. But, like, having him in it should
at least be
like,
memorable, right?
It should at least be memorable. Snakes on a Plane, memorable. Triple X, memorable. Any other, whack film with him in it, like, Jesus. I feel sorry for Eva Green. She must have thought she was, like, rolling off the success of Casino Royale. She took a couple of gambles with Tim Burton here, and both of them must have done her absolutely no favors.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the main kid in it, but he is one of, even for this era where Tim Burton just kind of loses all semblance of how to make a compelling character, really one of the absolute most wallpaperish characters I've ever seen in a film. The poor actor, he's a young kid, he does his best. But
that is the YA problem, isn't it, though? Like, YA is just, permanently obsessed with your blandest characters possible so that it can appeal to the largest audience possible. But I mean, fundamentally for me, it's all about world building with a YA of this kind. It's all about being transported somewhere entirely new. If you look at Hunger Games, you look at Harry Potter, even Twilight, there's the secret sort of world of vampires living among us. There's something kind of interesting about that, even if the stories in those films are trash. This, what does it really have going for it? What's particularly distinctive or memorable about it? Like I said, it's kind of
a bit
just
weird. Isn't there a girl who has like bees or something?
Yeah, and there's a girl that's like needs to have like metal shoes on, otherwise she'll float away.
That's not a superpower, that is just a disability. I could fly into the atmosphere at any time. Like,
she would just be dead at any given point.
Yeah, I mean, I see the potential here in terms of if you did this concept well, you could probably sell a lot of tickets.
You know what? Actually,
passionless.
Thinking about it more recently, they have sort of done something like this that's been more successful. The Umbrella Academy.
Right, yeah, I guess
Gerard Way's thing. And I saw the first season of that, and it was decent. Certainly better and more characterful and stylish than this.
It's got a monkey. I haven't seen it, but it's got a monkey.
It does have a monkey.
This has a weird set piece on like a pier with like skeleton warriors. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. No, straight up, I do not remember that.
I mean, probably F tier as well. I think this is worse than Big Eyes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more distinctive than Big Eyes, but it's kind of more annoying. It's more of a missed opportunity at the same time. So yeah, sod it. You know what? Maybe lower than Planet of the Apes as well, because Planet of the Apes is funny to watch.
I agree, actually. That's a good point. I mean, I'd rather watch Planet of the Apes than at least two of the films in C tier, and one of the films
that's
in
true.
D tier,
Yeah, actually, weirdly, if we were rating it on terms of watchability, Planet of the Apes would actually go quite high.
Talk to your kids more.
Okay, and I guess to end it off on the absolute wet fart, Dumbo. Mr. Burton comes back to Disney again after absolutely smashing it with Alice in Wonderland. At least, commercially. Yeah, absolutely killing it. And drops a big fat dud with yet another live action remake that nobody asked for or wanted. And this time nobody went to see as well. Dumbo, big flop.
It came out around the same time as just before Lion King, didn't it?
Yeah, it was that year.
They put all their eggs into advertising the Lion King, knowing it was going to be so much bigger, and no one went to see this thing. It lost a lot, didn't it?
It did not do well. And very similarly to Alice in Wonderland, it's nowhere near as bad as Alice in Wonderland, just because Alice in Wonderland is so bad. But this is still terrible. Much like Alice in Wonderland, takes a very simple story and injects a lot of weird backstory with Colin Farrell's a war hero with a missing leg or something, and there's this circus troupe of children with Dumbo, and Michael Keaton is like a steampunk CEO of this mechanized circus.
Even Danny DeVito couldn't save this turgid mess, because Danny DeVito is so full of life. No matter what role he's given, no matter what film he ends up in, he's always just so full of energy. He's such an infectious personality to witness on screen, and this might be the first time I've ever seen him look defeated, never look like tired and passionless about what he's participating in, which is just like the most glaring warning sign if ever I saw one, but also just kind of tragic.
Yeah, I agree.
It just made me sad because I'm so expecting this Dumbo film's trash, but Danny DeVito's gonna every scene he's gonna be in is gonna be great, and it wasn't the case. He just seemed like really
He was doing a weak
forlorn.
impression of himself. Yeah, I barely even remember him being in the film until you reminded me.
And Colin Farrell is trash in this.
Oh, he's so bad. I love you, Colin Farrell, but Christ. I mean, I hope you got a nice check from this.
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
I mean, I've actually seen the original Dumbo fairly recently. It's not like great, and it's pretty racist, but I mean, like, you know, it's simple but effective. It also had one of the most visually impressive moments of early Disney with the pink elephants on parade sequence. And this barely attempts it. This has like the weakest reference to it, and it's all CGI bubbles. And it's like, Christ, if you'd have gave this to old Tim Burton, he'd have probably done something amazing. Like, where's he gone? This is absolutely an F tier.
Could you imagine, a stop motion Nightmare Before Christmas-esque Dumbo film?
I'd love
Thinking
that.
about it, I think that actually could have been fantastic.
That could have been great. Yeah, man, just give it to Henry Selick at this point. Where are we feeling it?
I think below Planet of the Apes, potentially above Miss Peregrine, but maybe below it as well. It's sort of hovering around those two.
I certainly remember more of it than Miss Peregrine. You know what? I'll say this. Michael Keaton as a CEO was kind of funny.
He was probably the brightest of all the elements. Even though I
he's
feel like
bad
he could have done better.
Yeah,
there's at least a charm. There's at least he's trying to do something with it.
Okay, so Tim Burton. That was Tim Burton. What a way to end this, man. You could feel our life force being sucked.
I know.
By the terribleness of the films.
We started with such passion. We were talking about how great Batman Returns was and how stylish all of his early films were. We were like, yeah, let's do it. And that's got nothing to do with the fact that we're recording this at fucking midnight and it's gotten later and later and later.
I don't think so. If we were talking about, like, you know, a great director, say we were sat here talking about, like, I don't know, I mentioned David Fincher earlier. I feel like I could keep the energy up. It's like, I'm going to talk about Gone Girl in a minute, and that's towards the end of the video. Whereas here, it's just like defeat after defeat from someone who I just want to like. And it's like, I feel like Tim Burton having my soul sucked away by Hollywood. You know, he's kind of like the self-fulfilling prophecy all of his films about, I'm an artist, or, you know, I'm misunderstood, but I'm going to go against the grain and do my own thing. And then he ends up being a completely artless director who's
like a parody of himself.
Yeah, so stuck in his own tropes.
Which is ironically, I mean, and sadly, exactly what happened to Johnny Depp, really, isn't it?
Yeah, all he can do is regurgitate his old tropes and just kind of weakly imitate his early work. It's really, really sad to see. I really hope that, you know, he gets something good and really gives us one more great Tim Burton film, because they do scratch an itch. Those early Tim Burton films, the good ones, do scratch an itch. Like I don't feel from other films from other directors.
No,
even
I
really
agree.
good ones. Any closing words on Mr. Burton? Mr.
Well,
Wells?
look, Mr. Burton, please hurry up and make Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian and save your career single-handedly, because it's what the people are crying out for, clearly. I mean,
need to see Michael Keaton on a surfboard right now.
Anything that can kind of rejuvenate that, you know, passion, I think is the important part, because I don't think you lose talent, I think you lose passion. Maybe he doesn't realise it, but from looking at his art, I think he's become jaded. I think he's, you know, content with just kind of staying within a very safe lane, doing a pastiche of his own style. And I really hope he finds an idea that he goes, wow, that is genius. I need to make that as brilliant as possible.
I hope so too.
Whether that day comes,
we'll never know.
Only time can tell. Yeah, exactly.
We'll never know until it happens, and hopefully it does happen.
But yeah, I mean, if you've enjoyed this video, we'll be doing more tier lists like this in the future. If you have any suggestions, if you've watched through to the end, I really appreciate you. We both do. And, you know,
100%.
chuck us a comment if you want us to cover anyone in particular. And, you know, like, subscribe, all the good shit. And yeah, we'll try and we'll make this into a series. Yeah.
100%. Peace.
Peace out.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. It's not unusual to... It's not unusual to see me cry.